Good evening, candidates and members of the audience. Before I introduce Pat Dorsey with the New Mexican for some opening comments, I want to thank you all for attending the League of Women Voters of Santa Fe County's Candidate Forum for Santa Fe City Councilors Districts 3 and 4. I'm Byron Treaster. I'm a member of the League, and I will be the moderator of the forum this evening. Pat, would you like to come forward?
Thank you, Byron. Really appreciate the introduction. And good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Patrick Dorsey, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican, and on behalf of the entire company, we're proud to be part of these candidate forums and appreciate you taking the time to watch either from here at the Santa Fe Community College or streaming online at santafenewmexican.com. Newspaper readers are some of the most engaged citizens in a community and reliable voters critical to a healthy civic environment. Recent surveys have shown newspaper readers vote at rates significantly higher than the general public, and at the New Mexican, it's a full 96% of readers identify themselves as regular voters. Now that's impressive. I also know that they are informed voters, reflecting on the excellent coverage in recent days about the coming elections and the profiles of the candidates. So hopefully you all have been reading along with me. I've only been here 6 months, so it's been very instructive. As we look towards Election Day in November, we also look towards the start of a year-long celebration of the New Mexican's 175th anniversary and the legacies we've built bringing the news to people by telegraph, printing press, websites, mobile phones, podcasts, and an ever-growing suite of new technologies over all these years. 175 years, it's hard to believe. Keeping Santa Fe citizens up to date on the news and all things important to our community, like this forum tonight. In whatever form you interact with us, the Santa Fe New Mexican helps bolster community ties and gives us a common pool of facts from which to understand shared challenges and opportunities. This provides us a foundation for civil public discourse and the means to address our needs. I invite you to follow all the developments in these races in the pages of the Santa Fe New Mexican and on santafenewmexican.com. Thank you to the Santa Fe Community College for hosting us tonight, and to the League of Women Voters of Santa Fe County for their important work putting together this forum. Also, thanks to all of you, the people in person here and online dedicating their time to learn more about the candidates and for planning to vote on November 7th. Finally, to those who said count me in and decided to stand for election, the candidates, please accept our thanks for taking part in public life. If you win this November, it might be the last public thanks you'll get for a while. That was a joke. In all seriousness, thanks for stepping up as we need engaged citizens willing to get involved in the body politic and better Santa Fe for all of us. So good luck tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. As a personal privilege, I want to say how blessed Santa Fe is to have a locally owned and operated newspaper. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Santa Fe County, I want to express gratitude to the Santa Fe New Mexican for broadcasting our City of Santa Fe candidate forums this year as a service to the community. The New Mexican's no strings attached support over the years has allowed us to provide nonpartisan, authoritative election information to thousands of Santa Fe County voters by publishing the League's voter guide and now by live streaming our candidate forums. The League of Women Voters of New Mexico promotes civil discourse through action and education for all government bodies, staff, and citizens for the purpose of improved public policy discussions and processes. Civil discourse means, at a minimum, mutually respectful, courteous, constructive, and orderly communication. Please honor our commitment to civil discourse this evening. Before I introduce the candidates, I want to review the responsibilities of Santa Fe City Councilors. The Santa Fe City Councilors are, as you know, the city's primary legislative body. It is responsible for adopting the city's budget, levying taxes, and making or amending city policies and ordinances. Each of the 4 city council districts elects 2 city councilors to staggered 4-year terms. Candidates must be registered voters who reside within the district from which they are running. Now I will introduce the candidates for tonight's forum. Starting on my right, from your right to left, City Councilor District 3 candidate, from your left to right, Luis Carlos. My script let me down. I should have coached these people where to sit. Okay. Next is Pilar Faulkner. Pilar is a District 3 candidate. District 4 candidate Joel Nava. And District 4 candidate Jamie Cassett. I should note, unfortunately, the league made an error in scheduling the forum that affects potentially candidate Jamie Cassett. However, she graciously adjusted her schedule so she could participate in the forum. Thank you, Jamie. She may have to step away briefly to vote tonight on issues that a city committee will be considering. Thank you for your understanding if that becomes necessary. The candidates have all agreed to follow the league protocols for candidate forums this evening, including respecting the time limits for their responses and practicing, as I mentioned, civil discourse, even when they disagree about the issues. We will begin with 2-minute opening statements from the candidates and then ask them a series of questions submitted by you, the audience. The candidates will answer the questions in rotating order, as many questions as we have time until the 8 p.m. closing. Finally, shortly before 8 p.m., we will conclude with 2-minute closing statements from the candidates in reverse order from the opening statements. If you haven't already submitted your questions, you may email them to santafenewmexican.com/elections now or at any time during the forum. For those of you who are attending in person, submit your questions on the 3x5 note cards that are available. And I believe pencils are available also. Submit 1 question per note card, and please write legibly for my benefit. Hold it up when you are finished so that our runners may pick it up from you. Feel free to submit more questions at any time during the forum. The questions I ask tonight will be selected by our screening panel on issues that apparently have generated the most interest. I should remark that questions will be eliminated if they are directed only to one specific candidate or those questions that contain a personal attack. I will be giving the candidates a time limit of 2 minutes for their answers, and they have agreed to respect those limits. Our timekeeper, Mary Shrubin, over here, Mary Shrubin, who's sitting in front, where you can all see her. When a candidate has 30 seconds left, she will hold up a yellow warning sign. And when the candidate's time is up, she will hold up a red stop sign. At that point, We ask that each candidate, the respective candidate, wind up their response immediately. If not, I will have to interrupt out of fairness to all of the candidates. We will begin now with the 2-minute opening statements by the candidates. First, we will hear from District 3 candidate Luis Carlos, and then District 3 candidate Pilar Faulkner. Third, in the opening statements will be District 4 candidate Joel Nava, and finally, District 4 candidate Jamie Cassett. Luis?
Hello, good evening everybody. Thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you for coming. My name is Luis Carlos. I am a husband, father of 8, grandfather of 6. I am a retired chief of police. I retired from Santa Fe Police Department and I retired from the Espanola Police Department thereafter. I am thankful for this opportunity to come and speak with you. I will be looking forward to answering your questions and having that dialogue about our city. What is in need to make it better? I want to let you know that I'm currently working as a private investigator and I do a little bit of acting. I have a show about true crime out and about. I'm still involved in the profession. Again, thank you for having me. Looking forward to hearing from you, and I hope that I could answer all of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I'm Pilar Faulkner. I was born in northern New Mexico in Ojo Caliente. I went to high school, Milwaukee High School. I'm from the north and I moved to my district because it was like home to me. And I wanted to raise my kids in a place that was like home, with the values and the belief systems that I was raised with. I was raised to be a hard worker. We grew up like on a farm. When I was 11 years old, I went legally blind. And so I have a very strong understanding of what challenges look like in real life for people. But I also know that you have to work hard in life, and you have to pull up your bootstraps, and you have to do the best you can. I'm a registered lobbyist. I've worked with the state legislature for 23 years. I have a strong understanding of policy, how to write it, how to implement it, how to use it. I know how to use the political system to help my district. I'm a mediator, so I hope I can bring that to the table to bring parties together on the city council. I'm also an organizational development specialist, which means I go into organizations and help them become better organizations and train managers to become leaders. And what I'd like to do for my district, if I'm elected, is I want to get every single member of my community to be empowered to be the best leader they can be for our community together. Thank you.
If I might interrupt, if I could ask that we all hold our applause until the very end of the evening in the interest of saving time. Yes, Joel.
So my name is Joel Nava. I born and raised here in Santa Fe. I'm a father of 3 girls, married. I decided to run because I see the need in District 4 to have a louder voice. I work at the state capitol. I've been there for a few months now as security. I was a mechanic before that. Never left Santa Fe, so I see it go down the path it's headed now. And I just want to be involved in making a difference. I just feel that running gave me an opportunity to learn more, to see more, and to do more. And I think we need to stop being a reactive community and be a proactive. These are all the reasons why I'm running for city council here in District 4. Thank you.
Pilar, Jamie.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Santa Fe New Mexican for giving us this opportunity. My name is Jamie Cassett. I am the current city councilor representing District 4. I grew up here in Santa Fe, left for a little while. I was in Portland, Oregon, getting my bachelor's degree in psychology. And then when I could not handle that weather anymore, I ran as fast as I could down to Southern California for some sunshine. And while I was there, I earned my master's in public health from UCLA. It was my work in the public health field that actually really drove me into policy. I was working with low-income families and unhoused families with children aged 0 to 5. And what I really saw were the barriers that our systems put up that prevented people from being able to thrive and from being able to live very healthy lives. I have ran on a policy, and it really is a philosophy that all policy is health policy. I still stand by that to this very day. And what I mean by that is when we are looking at every decision that we're making, we have to be thinking about the quality of life of our community and how our decisions impact the quality of life of our community. I moved back home in 2018 after the birth of my son. It was very important to me to raise him here. Growing up in Santa Fe was an incredible opportunity, and leaving the city made me realize how incredibly special it was, as well as really gave me this view of who Santa Feans are, and that I wanted to make sure that I infused my son with those values, with that culture. I'm a single mom now to my 5-year-old. When he was running the first time, he was 9 months, so you guys may remember him strapped to me. He doesn't do that anymore. And I'm really running because I want to continue serving this community. I want to continue making a Santa Fe where we all can thrive. And I want to build a really wonderful life for my son and all of the children in our community. Thank you so much.
Moving on to the first question. Again, the time limit for answering will be 2 minutes. We will begin with candidate Pilar Faulkner. And the first question is, if you are elected, what are your top priorities?
So if I get elected, one of my priorities is that I'd like to protect some of the traditions of the Santa Feans in my district. But a lot of these issues, they kind of run as a tie for me. Affordability is a huge issue. I think there's more we can do about housing. My son had to leave Santa Fe. He didn't want to, but he had to leave because there's no affordable housing for people in his age group who make the kind of money that he makes. I care about the homeless situation and the panhandling. I know my district is frustrated with that situation. I think we need to help improve the policing by funding the police more. And the homeless situation, if we truly say we care about these issues, if we say we care about affordability, and we say we care about policing and homelessness and the litany of issues we have in my district, we need to put our money where our mouth is. If you do not put funding behind issues, all you're doing is talking about the issues. You are not resolving the issues. And you can tell what priority an issue has in government by how it's funded. And so I would say that getting funding to the right departments would be another thing I'm very interested in doing. I also think the city's not organized right. Departments like land use should not be under economic development. They should be on their own so they have autonomy and they have access to the right kind of funding so they can get their job done. The employees of the city of Santa Fe work very hard, but the way the city's organized right now is really making it problematic across all spectrums. Thank you.
Mr. Nava, your priorities.
So my 3 top priorities are, we need to get more activities for the youth. I think we forgot about them in the last few years. And with that, I think it goes hand in hand with crime. If you look, a lot of this crime is happening from youth right after out of high school. And I feel if we can get them more engaged and get them to take more ownership of our city, kind of like how we are up here now, they will avoid these crime-ridden issues and maybe take love for the cities. My 3rd biggest issue is accountability. I feel at City Hall there's no accountability, and we need that. Transparency is huge, and I think if we can't be accountable for our actions, I know if I go to work and if I'm not doing my job, I'm gonna get fired. And I think we need to hold those same standards across the board in City Hall. Those are my 3 issues.
Ms. Cassett.
I'm gonna get a lot of exercise tonight. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the question. As I've been working for the last 4 years, I really have had the opportunity to see some of the challenges of our community and the way that those challenges intersect. I would say the number one priority that I hear across the board is housing and the affordability and the ability for our community to stay here. I have proposed a 3% excise tax to fund our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That is also something that you will have the opportunity to vote on this November. And I have also been working with the Land Use Code and with our general plan to look at how we are building our city to make sure that we are creating affordable, sustainable, livable communities that really bring our social cohesion back together. Public safety is also the number one issue that I am hearing in the community. And housing and public safety are of course related as we look at the challenges that we're experiencing with the unhoused population. I currently have a proposal for a safe outdoor space. These are pop-up pallet homes that will provide housing for our hardest to house, as well as wraparound services, 24/7, and 24/7 security. Continuing to look at the different spectrum of options that we have and putting together really a variety of different solutions to solve homelessness is going to be really important. This is not an area where one size is going to fit all. And basic services are extremely important. And this is something that I really hear a lot about in my community and in my district. One area that I hear a lot about is our parks, and really making sure that our parks are places that our children can feel safe and that they can enjoy. I currently have $500,000 going to our Pueblo Del Sol Park. It had an unsafe play structure that we will be replacing, as well as plans going in place for Herb Martinez, Las Acequias, and a focus on Franklin Miles as we develop the Midtown campus. So continuing to make sure that our parks, our streets, our sidewalks are really usable for our community and really make us proud to be a part of Santa Fe. Thank you.
Mr. Carlos?
Yes, thank you. I am going to speak about crime. That is one of my top priorities because crime I know. I know crime because let me stand up. I want to get my exercise. I know crime. You know, I worked in the business for well over 20 years. I implemented plans when I was leading the Criminal Investigations Division to get Santa Fe out of being #1 per capita of property crimes in the United States. So I drafted and I put Operation Full Court Press into play, and that is what I'm bringing to the table. We have to address crime. It's happening all around us. It's happening to our neighborhoods, our families. We're not immune to crime. I've been a victim of it. I know a lot of you have been or know somebody that has been a victim of crime. Homelessness. I'll bring that from the heart because my mother and my siblings, we lived in a homeless shelter for quite some time to get away from a violent father. So I know homelessness, and I am going to bring what I know. I'm feeding back, huh? I'm feeding back. How about now?
There you go.
Thank you, Jamie. I don't like these things. Homelessness. I lived in a homeless shelter with my mom when we got away from a violent father. That is special in my heart. I have to address the homeless problem in Santa Fe because we do have a homeless problem here in town. I want to talk about housing. I have 8 kids. All of them have moved out of the city. They can't afford to live here. We have to start talking about bringing them back. And I do have some ideas of how we can implement that. Let's talk about infrastructure. In District 3, I want my parks that my kids play in to be similar to the other parks around the city. Well manicured, well trimmed. They don't have to worry about graffiti on the walls. I'm sorry, graffiti on the slides. Thank you very much. My time's over.
The next question will first go to Joel Nava. The question is this: are you satisfied with the level of transparency from the current city administration? If not, what changes would you try to promote transparency?
Well, again, like I just said, transparency is not there. We all read the paper, we all saw how right now our city manager wanted to hide a letter. Well, I'm sorry, again, back to it, if I make a mistake at my job, I'm gonna get fired. And I feel if we don't hold our leaders to the same accountability, we're gonna keep more secrets and we're gonna keep more things in the dark. we need to not keep things in the dark. We have the right to know as the communities, because if we don't know what's going on, that's when all of these what if come out, and we need to stop that. So transparency needs to be a huge and a key thing in government, especially in our local government.
Ms. Cassett.
Thank you so much. You know, it has become very obvious that communication and transparency has been a challenge at City Hall. Part of it is the sharing of information, but also a large part of it is our lack of public engagement ahead of time. And I think that this is a really important lesson that we need to learn. We have seen it done well, and we have seen it done not as well. One example was our second round of public engagement for the Midtown development. We really activated our local community groups so that we were able to reach parts of the population that normally are not, they're not going to be coming to the convention center, they're not going to be filling out the surveys. And being able to get the information out in that method and utilizing different partners that we have is very important. The other piece that's very hard in terms of transparency is we do not have a very user-friendly website. So even if the information is there, it's extremely hard to find. And that's not transparent. That is not giving information, even if it is available, but you can't access it. Well, what good is it then? So we really do need to work on utilizing that technology to make sure that we are able to provide that information and that the public can find it when they need it. We need to make sure that there are people answering the phones at City Hall when you have a question, and that we're able to answer those questions much easier so you can access those services. Finally, as a city councilor, what I have found and that I would like to continue is having community meetings, small community meetings, really focusing in on the neighborhoods has been extremely helpful. I did not get to do this as much with my term due to COVID, but moving into a second term, this is something that I will be doing with the district. There will be specific topics, specific areas, so I can really come and hear the problems that my constituents are having and provide information to them up front. Thank you.
Mr. Carlos.
Thank you, Brian. This is a very, very good question, and my answer is absolutely not. I am not satisfied with the way that City Hall is being managed right now. There's a crevasse of transparency between the government and us, the taxpayers. We know about the audits. There's been some time now that the audits have not been done on time. State is withholding monies because we can't, and I'm gonna buy in on this. I'm gonna say we, because we can't have timely audits. That's not good. There's IPRAs, Inspection of Public Record Acts, for people that, in my business, the New Mexican, myself as an investigator, when we request records, it takes months to get legal documents that we need that should be open to us, the citizens. We should know what the government's doing. I believe in open government. When I was a public information officer with the police department, I believe in sharing what the police officers are doing out in the streets. I believe in the plans that we were doing to better our community. And I want to take that to the city council. I got to tell you that us taxpayers, we're not getting our money's worth. We're not getting our money's worth. And we need to be transparent more with the taxpayers. Thank you.
Ms. Faulkner.
So, to me, knowledge is power. And if you take knowledge away from the population, from the people, you've taken power away from the people. This is our city. It should never be the case that a handful of people know more than everyone else knows. And we should not be making decisions for our communities without our communities being involved. And one of the places where I'm passionate about this is because I'm on the planning commission. When I joined the planning commission, I saw that we were expected to rubber stamp every project, and that we were ruling from the bench, meaning that there was policy and legislation that wasn't being enforced or that wasn't being followed, and we had, as planning commissioners, were being asked to decide what that policy or legislation should look like. And ruling from the bench is the most dangerous thing you can do because it is not consistent, there's no transparency. So I worked with this land use department to develop the policy subcommittee for the planning commission, and I am the chair of that committee. Currently, what we're working on right now, which is something I'm super passionate about, is the E&M process and how we can give the community access to the application sooner and more time to engage the developers and more time to organize and more time to know more about the projects that are coming through. Make no mistake, land use is the most critical department in the city. It affects all of our lives very, very much. And so to me, we need the community to be able to engage in that process and have a fair chance at making it through that process and negotiating as peers to the developers, rather than decisions being made with no one's input other than one meeting and then a hearing where the community only gets 2 minutes. That stuff has to go away. That's why there's so much conflict around land use, is because the community is not being allowed to get access to the information they need to participate in the process fairly. And I will continue to do that kind of thing as a city councilor on every topic. I intend to hold public meetings in my district at least every other month, if not every month. When I was an activist in District 3, that is what I did. And I will continue to do it.
The next question, we'll start with Ms. Cassett. What would you propose to make housing affordable in Santa Fe for the middle class and low-income folks?
Thank you so much for that question. Housing is, as I mentioned, one of the #1 issues that we're seeing in this community. I myself would not be able to live here if I did not have the help of my family. This is no longer a community where people who have grown up here can stay. It is often no longer a community where people can retire. I actually was able to connect with some individuals that I went to high school with, and they were telling me about all the places that their family has spread when really they would like to be here in Santa Fe. They would like to be here together, they would like to be here for holidays, but they've had to move to Albuquerque, they've had to move out of state, and they can no longer stay here. This is unacceptable. I have proposed a 3% excise tax to be imposed on home sales over $1 million, only on the amount over $1 million to be paid by the buyer, not by the seller, to go straight into our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Our Affordable Housing Trust Fund is our #1 financial tool for building affordable units and making them accessible to our residents. That's not enough though, and that's not all that I'm working on. As Ms. Faulkner mentioned, land use is one of the most critical departments in our city, and our land use codes dictate whether or not we are going to be able to build affordably and whether or not our developers are going to be interested in affordable housing. So one piece that I am looking at is incentives for affordable and sustainable houses. I've been invited to be on the Citizens Advisory Working Group for our land use code update, and that is one of the areas that I am really looking at. The other piece is that the city needs to leverage city-owned land. Land is expensive. Infrastructure is expensive. If the city is able to purchase property and then we are able to leverage that to tell developers, this is what we need, we will help you with the infrastructure and the price of the land if you are going to build affordable and workforce housing. We have the Midtown campus where there will be 1,100 housing units and a base of 30% of those will be affordable. We just bought 26 acres of the Game and Fish property, and there are more land areas that we can be investing in. Thank you.
Mr. Carlos.
Yes, sir, thank you. I have to tell you that, yes, I have to agree that the land use department's facing some challenges, so to speak. It took me about 4 months to get a building permit for my property. That's a problem. I want to talk about ADUs. I want to talk about auxiliary dwelling units or casitas. We're going to talk about casitas. We know what a casita is. About making it easy for us that have property to build a casita and attract our children back. Not that I want my kids back on my property, but again, some of us have that nuclear family, right? That we need our kids back. We need to talk about a program, having sort of a checkbox, if you will, of different ADUs for this property, and it depends on the size. And that's all through the land department, right? So I would go and I said, "Ooh, I like this casita." I'd go to the cashier and say, "I want this casita on my property," And everything should be streamlined so I can have the construction company build it right away instead of waiting and waiting for those building permits. I have to talk about developers. Developers are given an easy way out sometimes of skating through affordable housing. We need to hold them accountable. This is a partnership. It should be a marriage. It should be a marriage between government and us, and the government and the builders. So yes, this is one of the things that is special to me. I bought my first house using affordable housing money. And the image of affordable housing should be a nice little house with a front yard, a backyard for the dog and the kids to play in. And that should be the dream for everybody when we talk about affordable housing. Thank you.
So again, my experience on the planning commission has been helpful here. I would say that the issue of affordability is more complex than a one-stop shop solution. It's gonna take a lot of different things to solve this problem. And in some ways, we're gonna have to think outside of the box, and we may not even know what some of the solutions are in the moment. But I do know that there's a couple of things that I'm interested in changing. I understand the reasoning behind fee in lieu of, and I do think there's a place for fee in lieu of in the process. But right now, fee in lieu of, the city and the people of the city of Santa Fe are not getting their money's worth in that program. We asked one developer, how many units did you buy yourself out of? And he said 33. And then we asked staff, how many units did we get as a city? And they said 13 for 1 year. The math on that is not right. And we need to get a bigger benefit if we're gonna have a fee in lieu of program. It does have a place, but I think it needs to be readdressed. Apartments are the #1 step. The first step into being able to afford a home are apartments. And the fee in lieu of has made it so that you can't get in apartments. All these apartments you see in Santa Fe, very few of them are affordable. That's why my son had to leave Santa Fe, is he couldn't afford to live in an apartment. And so I think we also need to look at how we're developing and some of the things in the code that we could change that would allow for more affordability. You know, we're gonna have to, and this is very unpopular, but we're gonna have to look at things like density and height in certain areas of town.
So I think like what we were saying, everyone up here has some great ideas, right? We need to really look into how our contractors are doing it. How are we gonna partner with them? As Louis said, the marriage between them. We need to get that into a better situation so that way we can have more affordable housing. As everyone said, it's ridiculous. You know, I'm unfortunately, I'm not a homeowner. I'm part of this where I struggle with this. It is very expensive. So the 3% tax, there's a lot of questions that I have on that, but I think that can help if done proper, if the money is managed in the right way. And I think that's the other thing. The more we get the money in, how are we going to manage it? How are we going to build and make sure that these codes, like they said, these codes need to be in the right way, so we have the dwellings and the casitas, like Louis said. We need to get these done, right? I think everyone has good ideas, but we need to start putting them into actions. That's the problem, is everyone has an idea, but no one has the action to do it.
The next question, we will start with Mr. Carlos. What areas of potential city government and county government coordination would you emphasize?
The city and the county should be, they're sisters, should be able to work together collectively. And I can tell you from first-hand experience, there is some discord going on. We have to build those bonds, we have to work together, because after all, we are the government. We should be able to work collectively for the betterment of our constituents. One of the things that we definitely need to talk with, have those lateral conversations with the county, is affordable housing. You know, because it's just as expensive out in the county to build or buy a home. We have to talk about emergency services. We have to build those bonds and those bridges to, you know, sometimes crime doesn't stay just in the city, or vice versa. You gotta have those wonderful relationships and build on them. Because it's not about the city in itself or the county in itself. It's about the collective effort to provide a service for us taxpayers. So if I were to pick one, I would start with, taking out the city leadership. The county leadership, because thinking about city leadership, and start having cups of coffee. Start having lateral conversations. What can we do for you? And then we can reciprocate whatever they might need. First thing I want to do is just rebuild and reestablish those lines of communication, and then work together. Let's fix the problems together. Thank you.
So the South Meadows project is a perfect example of what's broken between the county and the city. And so that issue made it very clear that there isn't communication between the county and the city, and in fact, there's probably animosity, if we're honest, on a range of issues. So I would have to say that there's no reason why the city council, the county, and even the schools cannot work together. As a lobbyist, I bring parties together all the time. Most of the time when I fund my clients, like when I worked on the Southside Library, you have to bring all these entities together. When I represented the soccer community for youth soccer, I had to get money from the county, I had to get money from the city, and I had to get money from the state. I worked with all those entities, and they worked together on those issues. So it can be done, but we need leadership who knows how to speak to one another and knows how to negotiate with one another. Negotiating is about bringing people to the table, and everybody gives up a little and everybody gets a little. But at the end of the day, you work together and you respect each other and you get the job done. And so that's what I would do as a city councilor.
So I think that's very important to have a kind of joint leadership with the county. Like they said, the South Meadows, that directly affected people I know. We need to be able to communicate, and that's the same as a father to my kids. Everyone's going to be at different levels, right? Like when you're bargaining, I'm not going to talk to the same person as the next. I think if we can't sit here and we can't talk to each other, if we can't come up and build that bridge and small that gap and work together, at the end of the day, that's going to affect us, the constituents, us, the people, and we're either going to get the good out of it or where we're at right now, the bad. We need to be working together. We need to understand each other's problems are each other's problems. Their problems are our problems, our problems are their problems. So the sooner we could get that and work as a team, as Santa Fe, whether county or city, I think it's just going to continue on the path it's going.
As mentioned, the county is one of our most important partners. There are a number of issues that do not care about where the border ends for the city and the county begins. Just 3 areas, that's hard to choose. We do already work with the county in a number of areas. We have multiple boards that are joint government boards, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which looks at public transit, multimodal transit. I currently chair and serve on with Commissioner Hansen. We also have the BDD, which is looking at Buckman Direct Diversion, which is looking at our water. This is extremely important as we think about the challenges that we will be facing with water and climate change in the future. The city is the county's backup water supplier, so we really do need to be working hand in hand. And the county is going to be working with the city on our return flow pipeline, which is one of our key programs to make sure that we have water resiliency into the future. Housing, of course, is one of the key issues in the region, as we have already discussed. I worked closely with Commissioner Hughes to come up with a joint resolution for the city and the county to discuss where we all need to be in order to make sure that there is affordable housing for all members of our community. Housing is, of course, it's going to be complicated in terms of talking about density, in terms of talking about height, and the city and the county really working in conjunction there is going to be extremely important. The other area that I would like to see more city-county collaboration has to do with our recreations and our public services. So we currently have the 3 recreation centers and the Bicentennial Pool. We have our libraries, we have our senior centers. And we serve our county residents, and I want to continue serving our county residents at these areas as well as our parks. But I do think that we need to be working closer with the county to make sure we have the resources to do so, because again, we are serving people that are not within city limits, and that's wonderful. I want to welcome them in, but I would like to see where we can be better partners, and the county can be better partners with us to really serve our community that way. Thank you.
The next question will first be addressed by Ms. Faulkner. This question may have been inspired or motivated by the tardiness of our city's annual financial audit reports. The question is this: are you concerned about the impact in your district and on the city if capital outlay funding cannot be accessed?
I will say absolutely. Again, going to my lobby experience, capital outlay is one of the more critical parts of getting infrastructure put in. It takes a lot of work to get that capital outlay. The people who fight for the capital outlay for the city, it is one of the harder jobs, and it's one of the least favorite jobs of any lobbyist, because it is really hard work. And there is not an endless supply of funding. And so one of the things that happens with capital outlay is if you don't spend it within a certain number of years, you lose it. You lose it or you have to reauthorize it. I know in my district, there's sewage infrastructure that's a real big problem. And Linda Serrato fought very hard to get us that money to fix those problems. And our district is gonna suffer with a utility issue. Not even like some kind of light amenity. We're talking about sewage that is not going to get fixed if the city doesn't get the audit done and doesn't get it done in a timely fashion. So this audit situation is very serious around capital outlay. It is shutting down projects all over the city, and that money is not going to be there forever. You only have 2 years on some forms of capital outlay and max of 4 or 5 on others. And so the longer this goes on, the longer the delays are going to be in getting services and infrastructure out to the community. So this is a very serious problem.
So yes, it's a huge problem in District 4 because, as we all read, $1 million is lost for the parks. That may not be a lot in aspect of parks, but that is huge. As I'm canvassing the district, I'm seeing the parks, the courts are ridiculous. I wouldn't let any kid that I coach go over there because they're gonna sprain their ankle, they're gonna get hurt. I see that this money can be used now. And it's unfortunate that we are in the process of possibly losing it. Again, back to transparency. If we can't utilize this, if we can't get our jobs done in a timely manner and lose funding from the state, that's huge. It's huge, and it affects all of us, but more importantly, it affects the youth. We need to be worried about that. So yeah, it's a big issue.
Thank you so much. Of course, getting our capital outlay dollars is extremely important, and the concern of them being delayed and how this is going to impact some of our major projects. In District 4, the Midtown campus, we are waiting for capital outlay dollars for the Midtown campus, and that is one of the most crucial pieces. Getting the audit back on track is extremely important, and it is something that myself as a member of the Finance Committee, and I would say every single one of my colleagues is concerned about. What I can say about the audit, the FY21 audit showed us that we have problems in 3 areas. Staffing, we didn't have enough. Our systems, our accounting system was not up to date, and our processes and procedures. Staffing, we have hired Director Oster, who is an incredible director, and we are filling those key positions. We have supplemented with contracts to make sure that we can get ourselves back on track. As Director Oster likes to say, we are getting the right people in the right positions. Our accounting system. Earlier this year, we had a successful update of our Munis accounting system. This system was updated previously in 2019, and that update did not go as smoothly as it needed to. The trainings did not happen. We did not utilize all the different functionality, but this time we have updated it. We are using systems that are going to automate our audit or automate our financial accounting in a way that is going to make our audit smoother and move faster. We also are implementing new processes and procedures and making sure that every single staff member is held accountable. The result has been that we have had on-time month-end closes for all of FY23 and into, right now we're in FY24. And we had the first on-time year-end close that I have seen as a city councilor for FY23, which puts us in a much better position to get our audits in on time. We have FY21 in, 22 is on the way, and we have FY23 working, and I'm hoping that we'll have FY23 in on time. If it is late, it will not be as late. But I'm confident we are getting ourselves on the right track, and I will continue to work to make sure that that continues to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron. Absolutely, I'm concerned about us not being able to pull from those coffers, from those state coffers, those tax dollars. Right now, there's about $35 million earmarked for affordable housing that goes throughout the state. A lot of municipalities are slated to pull from those coffers, and we know we need it here in Santa Fe. And guess what? We're not going to be able to do it because we don't have clean audits. It's the state's mandate to get our finances in order. In District 3, absolutely. I want to see better playground for my kids. I want to see, a beautiful airport road lit up for when the tourists land at the airport, which is my district. You can see that Santa Fe is a beautiful city. The fact that the audits have not been done is what I call government failure. Government failure. They're failing us, the taxpayer. I'm glad the city's working on it. I'm glad that the city's trying to play catch up. Take that to a private industry. Take that to a business. If you don't know how to keep a checkbook, you're not going to have a job.
I believe at this point we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll reconvene at 7:35.
5, 4, 3.
Because of time constraints, we only have time for one more question, and then we'll go to opening statements. Mr. Nava, the question we believe may have been a question that logically would come from perhaps a young person in the audience, and it may be a result of the understaffing of our police department. The question is this: should the police department continue to employ officers who have been disciplined by the Law Enforcement Board?
That's a really good question. I believe it depends on what the disciplinary action is. I mean, I know right now law enforcement hands are tied. They're looked at, that job as a thankless job. No one really appreciates the job they do until they need them. So let's get the first thank you, law enforcement. It depends what the situation is. I think that's a huge thing. Coming from a child where my father was law enforcement, I see the need for them. We really need them here. If it is a major infraction, then unfortunately, just like with every other job, we gotta lose our job. If it is a complaint on attitude or excessive force, well, let's give them more training. Let's give them more training. I feel like with me at my job as security, I don't get enough training, and I know that law enforcement does. So I think we need to focus on that before we right away throw the book at the officer and get rid of them. Because by doing that, we're gonna lose a lot of good officers.
Thank you for the question. You know, I think the most important thing that we think about is what are our officers here for? And it really is to protect the community. And we also need to be working with them. I feel very fortunate that the Santa Fe Police Department really has made some strides. We have an incredible police chief who I feel has really changed the culture of our police department. I agree that with every question, there is the details that need to be there. The devil is in the details. If there is an officer who cannot safely protect our community, then they should not be an officer. But one of the things I would really like to see is how do we really welcome our police force back into the community? We frequently talk about community policing, but our law enforcement officers can't afford to live here. One proposal that I'm looking at is that we have a number of abandoned homes, nuisance homes. They're homes that eventually the city takes over. We foreclose upon them. We may have to knock them down. And at the end of that process, we sometimes have a property. We could potentially work with Habitat for Humanity and create these as affordable housing opportunities for our public safety officers, so our law enforcement as well as our fire. What this does is it not only allows us to bring our first responders into the community that they are protecting and that they are risking their lives to protect. It also infuses safety into the neighborhood as well as builds those bonds with our police department. And I think that is going to be incredibly important. So if an officer cannot serve us safely, they should not be able to serve us safely. However, I really would like to find a way how we bring our law enforcement back into the community, really implementing community policing and integrating our first responders with the Santa Fe residents. Thank you.
I just love this question. I just love this question. Thank you, whomever asked it. Let me just humanize the badge. Those men and women that don a uniform before shift have families. We leave our families behind to serve others. Along the way, we get spat at, we get called out. Sometimes we do good, and we get those far and few in between POBs, the pat on the backs. Good job. The men and women that don a uniform, and Sheriff, thank you for being here. You're gonna be my little goat here. But they don a uniform to provide a service. They leave their families because they have a serving heart. And I have to tell you, I've been there for decades. And we mess up. We make mistakes. We make mistakes that sometimes cost somebody their life. Sometimes we don't make the right decision, and that has repercussions. So the answer to that question is just depends. And I've sat on, as a commander in the police department and chief of police, I have saved so many professions. It's not a job, ladies and gentlemen, it's a profession. I've saved so many professions with having that conversation with the officers that messed up. And the first step is to admit it. And let's find a way to fix it and make it better. If we have an officer that is blatantly disregarding the law, not doing their job, just coming in to do just that, a job, well, they don't belong in the profession. I left this profession high and proud. I retired as a captain. I was running the police department. And we can save some of these officers. Thank you for that great question. And just to finalize that, I'll just stop. Thank you.
I'll yield some time.
Thank you. Can I have 30 more seconds? Thank you. And again, I've saved so many professions because of the human factor. We just cannot throw them away. I would compel anybody to make the application and don a uniform, get in a car, and go from call to call to call and not being appreciated. Thank you.
So I would have to say that I concur. Growing up in northern New Mexico, some of the police officers there were relatives. In Santa Fe, some of my dearest friends are police officers. I can tell you that there's an assumption that police officers think there's, big bad guys on the street and they're going to block it, knock everyone down, and they're macho guys. They're not. Just pulling over a car can get you killed as a police officer. And so we have to respect that they are putting their life on the line just in traffic stops. And if you think a community is hurt by someone getting shot, can you imagine being the police officer who just killed someone that they're designed to protect? That's some hard stuff that police officers have to deal with. They need our support. And yes, if there are major infractions, those officers should not be on the street. It's not the job for them. But there's also a process needs to be in place where officers are investigated and they're not found guilty in the public sector before an investigation is even had that allows them a due process. I think our society really is hard on police officers, and I personally do not agree with it. And I think if we gave them the resources they needed, they would be able to do the jobs they need to do, and they would be able to have the training they need and the support they need. Thank you.
We will now move to the 2-minute closing statements by the candidates in reverse order from their opening statements. We will hear first from candidate Jamie Cassett.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for being here, and thank you for these questions. I frequently get asked, why on earth am I doing this again? And I have to say that being a city councilor has been one of the greatest privileges of my life. I work this job full time. I am very lucky that I get to do so. But it also means that I get to serve District 4 on a full-time basis. I serve on more committees than any other councilor. I believe I'm chairing more committees than any other councilor. I currently chair 3: Quality of Life, Economic Development, and the Metropolitan Planning Organization. This means that I get to spend most of my day thinking about the district, meeting with members of the community, working on policy, identifying issues, and more importantly, identifying solutions. I will continue to work that hard if reelected to a second term. We have large problems in our community. They are complex problems. They are hard problems. But that's exactly why I feel that I should be reelected. I have a skill set, I have the time, I have the attention, and I have the passion to really serve this city that has raised me, that is raising my son, and that I love so dearly. So I am asking residents of District 4 to vote for me for a second term on November 7th. Early voting does start on October 10th and expanded early voting on October 21st. So make sure that you get to the polls, and I would truly appreciate your support and your vote. Thank you.
So first I want to start off, thank you for everyone being here. Thank you for the questions. Really good just to see how much of us care. With my closing statement, I want to just say, born and raised in Santa Fe, like I said, I see where we're headed. And as most of you here see, it breaks my heart to see the division in the city. It breaks my heart to see how much we have grown apart from our grassroots, from where we started. I've seen the great, I've seen the good, and right now I see the ugly. I feel District 4 needs to have somebody with a louder voice that's willing to give the people back the voice. I won't be anything without my constituents. And I feel that's the way politics, I feel that's the way we need to be. If it's not for us, you guys here, keeping us accountable, we're nothing. And I think that's what we need to remember, and that's what we need to stick with. My motto is, let's be the change Santa Fe needs. Let's is because I need you guys. The city needs us. We need to stand up to all these issues that we have, all these questions that were asked. There are issues that we know need to be fixed. They haven't been fixed, let's fix them. Thank you. Please, come out and vote. It's an off-year election. Numbers are always low. Let's go out there and let's vote. Thank you very much.
So La Familia, that's why I'm running. My district is full of amazing families. Families that remind me of the families that I grew up in, my cousins, my aunts and uncles. Our families in Santa Fe are diverse. They're multicultural, multi-ethnic. Our families in northern New Mexico are the same way. And I agree with this gentleman here. There's a divide in the city, and we need people who represent the families and the values that keep our communities together. Things are being lost in our communities, especially if you're in the districts that are more traditional. Things are being lost. Our families need places to live. Our kids need access to resources. We need safety. We need a whole litany of things. But I'm going to tell you right now, another reason I want to run for my district is we're a strong district. We're hardworking, and if we pull together, I think you can see the fact that you have 2 people running for District 3 who are fighters, and yet we get along to try and make things work for our district. That's what District 3 is. District 3, we may not always agree, but we have values that are the same, and we work hard, and we're not going to stop fighting for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I came into this country as a 5-year-old immigrant boy. I used to sell chiclets to the tourists that walked across the bridge in Juarez, along with my dad. I came to the United States following a dream. And like Pilar said, my district is full of those dreams. The families that come to this country and work, the families that serve our food, clean our hotels, work on our yard, work on our cars, that's me. I know the foundation of that family. I grew up chasing that dream and I got it. Became a United States citizen in my early 20s and never stopped looking back. I'm running because I have that passion. I have a passion for public service. I've been a public servant since I was 18 years old. I'm not ready to stop. I'm ready to work for you. I'm bringing a loud voice to the city council. I'm not a yes man. Status quo needs to change. We need to bring strong representatives. Like she just said, I couldn't agree with her more on that. We need to bring a strong change, a loud voice. I am compelling voters in District 3, come out and vote. You understand our district is the lowest numbers to when it comes to voting? It's a constitutional right, ladies and gentlemen. I had to earn it. I had to prove to the American government that I can earn it. And I did. And I did. And it's a freedom that you are given by birth. Use it. Come out in numbers. Okay, come out in numbers. Jamie, thank you. The voting, early voting begins on the 10th. Election day is on the 7th. I'm not stopping until the 8th. I'm asking for your support. I'm asking for your vote. I am number 1 on the ballot. Come out and vote, please. Thank you.
That concludes Thank you, candidates. That concludes this evening's Santa Fe City Councilors District 3 and District 4 candidate forum. As we close, I hope you will please join me in thanking all the candidates for their participation and the Santa Fe New Mexican for broadcasting the forum. The broadcast will be available for future streaming on the New Mexican's website, SantaFeNewMexican.com, and on the League's website, www.leagueofwomenvotersSantaFeCounty.org. Be sure to make your voice heard by voting, early or absentee. Good night.